today's series, I'm going to go over the complete setup and manual user guide of the Vitavue 10 multi-parameter monitor. I'm going to start off with how you unbox the machine when you receive it in clinic. So it'll come in a box like this. I would get maybe another person to help you unbox it as well, just because it's a little bit tricky to pull out of the box. We definitely don't want you to drop it. So opening it up, it's going to look like this in the box. We've got some styrofoam just to protect it while it's in transport. So first off, I would remove this big cardboard box. This has got all of your kind of accessories that you'll need to attach into the monitoring panel. And then you can see it's within 2 pieces of styrofoam. So yeah, for this part I would definitely use 2 people, but it's just me, so that is fine. Lift up the monitor. One piece has fallen off for me, which is good, and get rid of the box. So just remove these styrofoam pieces, and you've got your monitor, and it'll be in a plastic sheet as well, just to kind of keep it protected. I'll remove this. And there is the monitor. It does have a protective kind of screen protector on there as well, so start off by removing that. If you wanted to keep it on there for a longer amount of time just to kind of keep the screen in good condition, that is totally fine. If you're not affected by the bubbles that you can see, I would suggest removing. This is the Vitavue 10 on its own. It's got a nice big handle on the back that you can move around the clinic if you need to. And so that is the whole module there. So I'm going to put that aside while I go through the accessories which are in this cardboard box. So opening up, and if you are kind of not using all of the accessories at the one time, maybe keep them in the same box, keep everything together, because you don't want to lose any of these kind of extra pieces. So you've got ECG cords, thermometer cord, blood pressure cuffs. This one comes with Suntech technology, so it comes with Suntech cuffs. You can opt for the premium cuffs as well that we supply. These just are disposable cuffs, but if you would like a reusable cuff, that's a premium option you can definitely use. So people tend to use Suntech because it's a familiar brand, but we tend to find that people need to replace them more often. They also come with multiple adapters as well. They come with an attachment, but they also come with an extra attachment. Blood pressure tubing, ECG clips, paper, and a book user manual. So that's that. Everything that's in there. So I'll keep the manual aside for now, and I'm going to show you how to attach each individual component to the monitoring machine. Taking a look at the machine on the side, we've got a couple of ports here, and we've also got a couple of ports on the back. And you've got your printer paper gets installed in the side here. You'd insert your roll so the paper is hanging out, and close that, and that's ready to go. And it can print. You can have it turned on so it will print every kind of 10 seconds or so, or you can disable it depending on whether you are tracking those trends. On the side of the machine here, we've got our SpO2 connector, ECG, temperature probe, and it has a temperature 1 and a temperature 2. So if you've got an esophageal temperature and a rectal temperature, most clinics will just have 1. You've got your non-invasive blood pressure and your CO2 capnograph. Now on the back, you've got your charging battery plug. You've got a HDMI if you were to plug this and attach it to a bigger screen. You've got USB, and you've got connectors to connect to others. There's no kind of order as such, just making sure you've got the right port in the right section, but they are all clearly labelled, so it makes it a lot easier for you. So I'm going to start off with our thermometer probe. You can see it's got that evidently different attachment, so I'm just going to line it up with temperature and plug that one in there nice and securely. And then that is going to the patient. That can be esophageal or it can be rectal. If you are using it rectally, I would highly suggest putting a thermometer cover over the top. Now we've got to attach the blood pressure monitoring tube. So the longer end goes to the machine, and the squashy end that you can pull down the nozzle on goes to the patient. So I just want to find the baby pink one and get inserted. Make sure you insert it all the way back. Next one is our ECG cords, ECG leads. So I'm going to attach the big adapter. This one is quite heavy, quite intense, and so obviously it's going to go to the biggest connection. It's got an arrow as well, so arrow goes to the roof, and we're going to insert and make sure with that one it is nice and flush as well. Now we're not finished setting up with the ECG cords just yet. So this one's 3 lead, and so I just need to attach the clips to these. So I've got my 3 clips. So I've got my yellow, so I'm just going to clip the little nozzle there into the yellow like that, and it's nice and clipped on. And so now you can clip that onto your patient. Attach the other clips. Like that. So they are all ready to go. The only other thing that I don't have here is capnograph, the CO2, and an SpO2 probe. The SpO2 probe does routinely come with this machine. That one just inserts right into the top. The only other thing now we need to do before attaching all of those monitoring cords to the patient is choose your blood pressure cuff. So depending on your patient's size, you would attach your cuff to the end of your blood pressure monitoring, like so. Hopefully you can see this from here. So on the screen, on-off button down here, we've got an alarm reset button, alarm paused, a freeze, so you can freeze the screen that you're looking at, record, so you can record it and you can print it out, so if you're tracking an ECG trace, non-invasive blood pressure, so that's to start the blood pressure monitoring, and a menu button. And then also with the Vitavue 10, you do have this scrolling option. So this is how you scroll through the menu that's on the touch screen. So start by holding the on button for a couple of seconds. The button will turn green, and then you'll show an indicated light up here, and we're turning on. A couple of beeps, and then we're at our monitoring screen. So here, looking at the monitoring screen, that is going to annoy us, so I'm just going to press alarm paused, so that is just going to silence that alarm while I'm talking. This screen, we're looking at the top area, we've got heart rate that's being monitored. It's obviously, I've got no cords attached into it at the moment, so it's just showing, I'm just going through the sections of what the parameters are that we're looking at. So heart rate is this section, your ECG trace would come up and show through here, and your heart rate number is going to show up here. Your SpO2, your respiratory rate. So amongst the screen, it does have little indicators of what you're kind of looking at. So resp for respiratory rate, SpO2, heart rate, HR for heart rate. What else have we got? We've got temp down here, so your temperature, and then down here you've got your non-invasive blood pressure, so you've got your blood pressure monitoring. If you wanted to change the layout, you can just go to the menu and edit it through there. So let's have a look at the menu options. So when you press menu on here, you've got animal setup, alarm limit, data review, screen settings, print settings, measure settings, maintenance settings, configuration settings, and then you're back to the normal function. So to scroll through your menu items, you're going to use this little nozzle here and scrolling clockwise, and you'll scroll down to the setting that you're wanting to use. So let's have a look at animal setup. So all I want to do to hop from this section into the animal setup options, I'm going to press this little nozzle in, and it'll pop over, and now I can scroll through these options. So animal info, I'm going to press that button again to have a look at this. So if you wanted to enter in all the patient's details, so if you were going to record the details and print them later, you can enter in the name, patient ID, weight, all that kind of thing. It's currently set as equine, so I'm going to change that to canine. So all I do is keep scrolling and it'll set to that setting. Press the button in and you scroll down to the option that you're wanting. So I'm going to use canine, so I'm going to press the button in. I'm going to keep scrolling. I want to put the weight in. I'm going to put in a 6 kilogram weight. So press in again. and I'm just going to scroll through these options till I get to the 6 and press and enter. So now that's changed to 6 kilos. Now I want to scroll through to press yes, so I'm all done. Changing animal type will cause the configuration changes. Are you sure? Yes, because I want different type of parameters for normal parameters for my horse as I do for my dog. So yes, and now it's gone to canine up here. You can see that that's identified there. So I want to go back to the menu, keep going through. If we wanted to change the alarm limit, press in and scroll over, select again, and you can change the different kind of parameters, the highs and lows. I would only ever adjust this if your vet has kind of specifically asked you to. If not, keep this as normal. So to go back, I can either press menu or I can press this X, and that will take me back. And then to go back from this items to back to this menu, I press back, and now I can keep scrolling. Data review, if I wanted to have a look through previous tables or graphs, you can go and select that. Screen option, so this is where we would be changing that layout of that screen. So the current screen, it says standard. You can also change the screen layout and the color. So if I wanted to, I want to change the layout of the screen, and then select screen layout edit. This would be if you wanted to customize the layout completely. So you select a box and you say replace whatever was in there currently to something else. So if I wanted to change SBO2 from there to there, all you would do is select the box and go replace and insert the SBO2. This screen is actually touch screen as well, so if you aren't using this nozzle, you can manually use your finger. If we wanted to go back now, I'm just going to press that X and go back to menu, and I want to go back to my print settings, my screen settings, sorry. So current screen is standard, and you can change it within these ones too. These are kind of preemptively pre-programmed layouts. So if I wanted to go to big font, I could go standard big font, and then all of the, I'm going to exit that, all of the numbers are larger, which is quite a good idea if you aren't extremely close to the monitor in your surgery, or it's, you know, it's a couple of meters away. Let's go back to menu, measure settings. So let's have a look at measure settings. So if we were looking at our SBO2 setting, this would kind of tell you how often it is measuring that SBO2. If you wanted it to be more frequent or more, you know, far apart, you can adjust all of those settings as you can do with all of the other parameters. Exit. Now I want to go to maintenance, back again, maintenance. So you've got a couple of different options in there. You can change the date and time. You can have a look at the serial number for the monitor, configuration monitor, and monitor maintenance. So you could change the configuration for each species in there. Normal function, we can change the brightness on the screen, the wavelength, tone volume, tones touch screen, and a couple of other options in there. So that's pretty much the menu items. So I'm going to exit that. If we're looking at the different areas around the screen, I want to show you a couple of things here. So the section here is patient information area. The second section here is system information area. It will indicate here if we've got it the monitor in night mode, and it'll also show the date and time. This section here is the alarm information. So this is currently alarming that my printer is out of paper and my SBO2 is off. So any kind of alarm that you're going to see is going to show up in this section. A couple of the quick keys that are along here on the touch screen, there's a few that go across and there's an arrow to go to the right as well. So I'm going to go through those now. So the first one is animal, so that's the animal's details. So you can change here, you would change if this is going from a canine to a feline. You just press on canine and you can choose with the touch screen, you can choose feline, or you can use the scroll and scroll through those options. Once you've entered all the details that you would like using the scroller and enter, you can exit. Going back to here, we've got admit, so that would be to admit a new patient. We've got discharge, is to discard the last patient and go on to a new patient. So this should be done at the end of every kind of monitoring session, every anaesthetic or such. Calculate leads, so that's going to calculate your ECG leads. Alarm limit, so that is just the parameters that you've got. The normal kind of parameters where things are going to alarm if they're too low or too high that you've got it set at. You can edit these in the menu as well, but if you aren't directed by the vet to adjust these, I would leave these as they are. The next one is code marker. So this just means, say in this anaesthetic and you are keeping the record, you want to keep monitoring the trends and things like that. Say at this time at 12:44 I administered some Valium. So if you just press Valium and that's done, now that has recorded it within this trend. You can select trend graph, and then here you can go to event, and it's going to show the last, when these medications were given. So I've given one at 12:44, at 12:40, and then at 12:40 again. I'd given two different things, and it's keeping it within record during this anaesthetic monitoring. Trend table, and this, if this was monitoring and it was hooked up, we would see trends going along. Screen, this one is just to look at what we've got with the screen settings. Screen layout, here, layout is to change, you can manually adjust where you are seeing everything on the screen if you'd like to change it. Enable touch, so if I was to press enable touch right now, this means that I can't use the touch screen. I've got to navigate through with the scroller. To turn the touch screen back on, you just go to menu and you scroll all the way down to normal function and select normal function, and I want to scroll down to touch screen. See, it's off. I just want to change that back to on. And now it's enabled again. Standby, so just put the machine in standby for you. Calculation, so if you needed to calculate something whilst you are monitoring, you can plug in your medications, the strength, the patient's weight, and it will give you a calculation. Tone volume, so this just means the volume of the machine. Brightness, so you can edit how bright the screen is. So it's on the 5 at the moment, so if we wanted to take it up, say, and we wanted to put it to 9, and it just brightens a little bit. Night mode, if we would just want it to snooze, and you've got print set up here as well. Now, looking at the individual parameters that we are monitoring with this machine, first of all, we have heart rate. So with your ECG cords, you've got the option to change your source of heart rate and pulse rate, so which monitor it's being calculated from. So it can be calculated from your ECG cords, which is the regular, or your SpO2. So it can be taken from one or the other. So if one isn't connected or one's not working correctly, it will take it from the other if it's in auto, unless you've got one of these selected. So the best thing to do is just keep it in auto. Lead mode, so that just means the number of ECG leads that you've got attached. 5 is the gold standard, but you can change it to 3. Say if the vet is hanging over one side of the patient and a 3 is all that you can kind of get to without them being interrupted, 3 is fine. You've got a couple of options to adjust your ECG cord 1 and 2 and ECG 1 and 2, the gain. You've also got filter mode, so depending on how you are monitoring, so you can select this and it can be, selected for either if you're in surgery, you're monitoring the patient, or it's for a diagnostic reason. Monitoring during surgery, monitoring or surgery is generally the normal one, and a couple of other options there. We want to go to respiratory rate now. I could just scroll through here because these are all our settings here, but the other option that you do have is just to select on the section that you're wanting to look at. So measure mode, it's in manual at the moment. You can change it to auto. That just means that when you have got it attached, you're prepping the patient, you've attached it all, you will have to select the non-invasive blood pressure monitor for it to engage and to start taking those measurements. And then it's also got here auto interval, so that's how often the blood pressure is getting taken. It's currently on 30 minutes, which I think is way too far apart. I would be changing it to every 2.5 to 5 minutes. You've got a blood pressure complete tone, so it'll alert once the blood pressure has given you a reading. You can turn that on or off. Initial pressure, so that's your parameters, so just leave the parameters unless your vet has instructed you to change them. SpO2, so that's your other setting. Sweep speed, so you can change your sweep speed, leave it as the normal if you haven't been directed to change it otherwise. Average time, so that's kind of how often it's being taken, so every 8 seconds, so that's good. Sensitivity, so you can make this kind of high, and so it'll alert you even more if it's lowering. You say if you've got a critical patient, that might be ideal, unless just keep it normal. And you've got a couple of options in regards to tones that it makes and volume. If you think it's too quiet or it's too loud, you can adjust it through there for different parameters and for the whole machine. So the capnograph hasn't been attached into this monitor just yet. It is an extra attachment. Some clinics prefer it without, some clinics prefer it with. This one currently only has respiratory rate. It's got the same with this one as well, respiratory rate source. So it's coming from either ECG, so it's monitoring those exhale inhales, or auto, it's going to be coming from, if you have a capnograph attached, it will go to your capnograph and be monitored through there. And the last one is temperature. So you've got the 2 channels there. If you've got them plugged in, it'll show that highlighted. But if we've got none, so they're not highlighted, it'll only show 1 if we have that one plugged in.